Hi. So I've been running around my house, straightening things up. And as I straighten up, a lot of times my mind chatters to itself. So um, I was reading the book Kingdom of Heaven by Rudolf Steiner. It's a set of lectures by Rudolf Steiner that were given to a group of people in England, I think in 1923 maybe, who wanted to open a Waldorf school. And I'm at the very beginning of the book, and he says we should not deny anthroposophy. So I am paraphrasing what he said there, but don't run from it, embrace it, is basically what he said. I feel like in Waldorf education, sometimes there's this like hush-hushness about anthroposophy and the beliefs that Waldorf education was founded on. So Rudolf Steiner founded anthroposophy, and it's a scientific look at spirituality. It's a scientific look at the spirit, at the human spirit. It's a scientific look at humans and a belief that humans are more than just their mind and their body, that we are a spirit. So it's not religious at all, or not necessarily. Anthroposophy is not taught in Waldorf schools. In fact, if you ask most Waldorf students when they get to the end of their Waldorf career, what is anthroposophy? They have no idea, and most of them have never even heard of it. So I feel like it's important, though, to highlight that anthroposophy is probably what makes Waldorf unique and special. And if you're drawn to Waldorf, it's probably why you're drawn to Waldorf without knowing it. So it is this belief that the children that are in front of you are not just a mind, not just a body. They are a spirit, and that spirit is eternal, and that we are here to help foster that spirit and guide that spirit to become who they are meant to be. I think now, there's a lot of people who would like dismiss this and say like, there's not a spirit, we are just a mind and a body. And that's okay. But there has been a lot of crazy scientific, spiritual evidence, or crazy evidence to show that there is a life force in us. If you look up Dr. Joe Dispenza, if you look up, in fact, there's this whole, my husband and I just started watching this app called Gaia, and they have all these people on there who have healed themselves by tapping into their life force, by tapping into their spirit, by meditation and all these different things that they're able to do to heal themselves. People had stage 4 cancer. People had different types of diseases. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he had, I believe it was 6, he got an incredible accident back in 1986 where his 6 vertebrae, he was on his bike and he was hit by a Bronco going 55 miles an hour, and it compressed his discs, 6 of his discs in his back, and he was told he was probably never going to walk again. But he knew he had a life force in him, and he started to tap into that life force. He opted out of surgery. He checked himself out of the hospital, and he tapped into that life force through meditation and healing, and he taught his body how to heal itself. And within, I think, 9 weeks, he was up and walking and moving again and doing things just like he was before within 10 weeks. Not to say he was without struggles mentally. He was like that anguish of like trying to get yourself on the right place and believe in it. But there are a lot of cases that a spirit or a life force is inside of us. And that is the basis of anthroposophy, and that spirit is connected throughout this world with all the other spirits, and we're connected on a much higher spiritual level. So, like I said, this isn't taught in Waldorf schools. So if you are sending your kid to a Waldorf school, you don't have to believe in anthroposophy at all. But if you are teaching it, if you are homeschooling it, if you're homeschooling your kids with Waldorf, I highly believe you should understand anthroposophy. Like for me, I struggled with it at first. I was really having a hard time connecting it. I was very much of the material world. And I also, at the same time, was having a really big soul disconnect, like a crisis of the soul. I was stressed all the time, and I was like for no reason. I just felt stressed and anxious and all of these feelings all of the time. And I knew that Waldorf had this whole level of thinking of the soul. And I even struggled with like things with my kids, like, why won't they just pick up their toys, and why won't they just do this, and all of these things that we think as parents. And then I started to do some of my own soul work for myself, not for anything to do with Waldorf, just for myself. I started to meditate, I started to journal, I started to do practices of gratitude, I started to do yoga, like all these things to really connect the mind, body, and spirit. And it was then that I started seeing my children as spirits, not just their mind and their body, not just the little things and the little quirks that they have, but their spirits and this eternal spirit and eternal being that's in front of me. And there was this reverence that came over my day-to-day life with them. It's not to say that I don't have bad days and things like that. I do, for sure. And if I'm really tired, a lot of this stuff goes out the window, because that's when just my mind and my body are here and my spirit is just like disconnected. So I'm saying all of this. This is a long rant to say, if you are sending your kids to a Waldorf school, I don't think you have to believe or even worry about anthroposophy, probably at all. But the thing that's probably drawing you to a Waldorf school, the calmness, the teachers' presence with your kids, the way that they truly study and examine your children, all goes back to anthroposophy and their beliefs in anthroposophy and their belief that they are there to help guide your child's spirit to be what it's meant to be. But on the same note, if you are interested in educating your children through Waldorf education, or if you are homeschooling and are interested in Waldorf education, I think you could be Waldorf inspired and adapt some of those elements into your homeschool. But I think to be truly Waldorf, you have to learn more about anthroposophy. So with all that being said, where can you go to get more information on anthroposophy? So there is a podcast called Waldorfy. And they had an entire season dedicated to, first of all, the whole podcast is great. It's from a woman who went to a Waldorf school, and she said it was basically the foundation of her life. Like, she accredits so much of her life to Waldorf education. She runs this entire podcast exploring more about what is Waldorf education, how to implement it in your home. It's a great podcast. And then she has an entire season dedicated to what is anthroposophy. And she even says, like, having been a Waldorf student, she didn't know anything about anthroposophy. She just knows how she was educated, but it never came up. Some people say, like, it's a cult. It's not a cult. It is just a belief that your child is more than just a mind and a body, that they are a spirit. And like I said, you don't have to believe that if you send your kids to a Waldorf school, but the truth is it adds a lot of value to the education, because your teachers are going to be looking at your child with so much more depth. But if you are homeschooling, I do think that you should understand a little bit more about anthroposophy. I myself am nowhere near an expert on it. I am doing my own soul work. I'm doing my own inner work. I'm trying to understand it myself. I think one of the best things you can do after you get a very, like, a high level understanding of what anthroposophy is, like I said, going on to that podcast is a great start. I think the next thing is to read Steiner himself. So I've read How to Know Higher Worlds. He is the books are dense. They are not long, but they are dense. I feel like every single word is a gem. I'm somebody who highlights as I go through books, and almost all of the books that I read by him, almost everything is highlighted. Like, I flip through and the whole entire book is highlighted because there's just so much in it. But I started with How to Know Higher Worlds, which is about, like, spirit and things like that, meditation, and how to be able to almost achieve a state of enlightenment. And then I have read The Education of the Child. I think that's it, The Education of the Child. Yep, it's the yellow Waldorf book by Steiner. And then I'm reading the Kingdom of Childhood right now. And these are just great ways to tap into anthroposophy, understand Rudolf Steiner's philosophy, and the Kingdom of Childhood is practical information to be able to put right into the classroom or to whomever you're teaching. So all of that being said, I just wanted to pop on here because it's been on my mind all day, having read that this morning, that we should not deny anthroposophy. We should almost be like, he says, like, if somebody asks you, what is Waldorf education all about? You say it's about anthroposophy. So with that, I felt like it's just good to come on here and share that with you. So thanks so much for hearing my little ramble right now. And if you have any more questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. You can post it in the comments, or you can you can ask me questions over on my Instagram, which is @BeautifulLightHome. You can go to my website, which is beautifullighthome.com. And yeah, I'm here for any questions you might have, but enjoy your journey today, guys. Thanks. Bye.